Of all the 3 endings to Mass Effect 3, my actual personal favorite has to be Control. It was, however, not my first choice, which was Synthesis. But Synthesis merges all life in the galaxy into organic AI hybrids. What's not to like about that? Well, in my mind, Synthesis completely removes the individual nature of life. The freedom of choice is what first comes to mind. How do we know that everything in the galaxy still kept its own individuality? How do we know that everything didn't just become a giant hive mind? Well, we don't know. Synthesis is also easily the most space magic-y and least sci-fi choice of all 3. That's probably why Synthesis was my least favorite of the 3. But what about Control? If Shepard chooses to take control of the Reapers and the Catalyst, his personality gets merged into every individual Reaper. Now, instead of the Catalyst controlling everything, Shepard takes its place. There are different philosophies that the Shepard AI takes, depending on how you played your Shepard. If you played a Renegade Shepard, the AI becomes fairly offensive, stating that it will destroy anyone who threatens the people of the galaxy. If you played a Paragon Shepard, the AI states that it will use its power to protect and defend. I'll get back to this later, but despite which version of Control that plays out, Shepard becomes somewhat of the guardian of the entire galaxy. Now, the only ones who lose their individuality are the Reapers, but the Reapers never really seem to have an actual individuality, despite what Sovereign said about them all being each a nation.
My kind transcends your very understanding. We are each a nation, independent, free of all weakness.
As they were all directed by the Catalyst to do its bidding, the races of the galaxy all gets to keep their individuality, their essence. Not only this, but ED gets to continue existing, and we all love ED. Races like the Geth will be allowed to exist as long as they don't start warring with other races. The Shepard AI even rebuilds the mass relays and gets civilization up and running again. So all in all, the Control ending is the least damaging and in the short term, the best ending in my opinion. But what about long term? Well, here's where Shepard's behavior comes into play. Who's to say that a Renegade Shepard doesn't become an absolute ruling overlord, that despite what he or she says about protecting the many, the Reapers become the intergalactic bouncers who throws troublemakers out of the party by complete annihilation? Most of us probably chose to play as a Paragon, however, so in most cases the AI might be benevolent and could act as a negotiator between feuding races. Now for the most interesting part of this video. Could Control actually be a viable canon path for Mass Effect 4? Now, as always, I'm going to start theorizing on what I myself would enjoy seeing, so this is in my personal opinion. Hundreds of years has passed, and the civilizations of the galaxy has been rebuilt. Life is flourishing in the galaxy, and despite a few petty squabbles between the different races here and there, some between already established races and some new ones, sort of like the First Contact War between Turians and humans, the Shepard AI has managed to keep the peace. But then, the Shepard AI and the Reapers all disappear. But why? Well, it might be that the AI has completely evolved into a carbon copy of the Shepard that it was made from. And it realized that despite how benevolent its intentions, the fact that nobody dared question its power meant that it silenced dissenters and differently opinionated individuals and races. It could kind of reflect some issues going on today. It removed freedom of will and thought by just existing. The AI realizes this and leaves for the good of the galaxy. Now this is where our new story starts. The Shepard AI and the Reapers left hundreds of years ago, and the galaxy has fallen back to some infighting. There is a new council of sorts, or some form of leading government, but they're having a hard time quelling the infighting between races. Perhaps this is also where Mass Effect Andromeda gets connected to the main story. Ryder and team build some form of mass relay or some different form of mechanism that could get them back to the Milky Way. They're fleeing, but from who? The Ket? The Jardan? And because of the galactic infighting in the Milky Way, they're not ready for an extragalactic invasion, much less from a force that's much more aggressive than the Reapers ever were, and whose motivations are much more sinister. The new protagonist and writer, and maybe even the Andromeda squad joins in a scramble to in some way find the Shepard AI and get our old nemesis, the Reapers, to defend the galaxy as it was meant to. Now I realize this probably won't happen, but the Control ending could actually be plausible if BioWare chose to go that route. It would surprise a lot of people, as most of us are pretty sure that Destroy is the canon ending. We'd get to reunite with our old Shepard who lives on inside the Reapers. Our favorite villains become our protectors. What do you guys think? Could you see this happening? Hell, do you even like the theory? I made it myself. If you have any suggestions, I'd really like to read them. I'm eager to theorize some more. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.